long story short, I was burnt out trying to balance both academics and my work. Because you know how much time a regular, like, drawing something, a full canvas of an illustration, takes about 5 hours to finish. So, yeah, if our classes span about for 3 hours and multiple classes in one day, and you try to squeeze in your work in that day, that makes you overwhelmed. I mean, who wouldn't get overwhelmed by that? Even the most professional writers, creatives, get overwhelmed by just the thought of it. So, when you think of yourself as a productive person, but you got all these things, you have all these things to take account for, and you try your best to think about ways that you can squeeze everything in, and you kind of disregard your mental health and also your physical, because those two things actually have a correlation. So if you neglect one thing, that also affects the other. So you go on a downward spiral, which is really detrimental for both your productivity and overall well-being. So yeah, at the end of it, ultimately I got burnt out. I was not able to produce anything creative. At least I was focused more on academics, because those things actually have um, consequences, negative, um, detrimental consequences if I don't really focus my attention on them. For in regards for my work, it doesn't really have much consequences. Well, at least I'm disregarding my success for a little bit. At least I'm delaying it, but not too detrimental. But it matters much more. I mean, both matter. It's just that I could not focus on my work, which I thought of is gonna lead me to be more successful towards the future. So yeah, I could have, like, I have overwhelming, like, thoughts about the future, and I'm troubled by the fact that I'm neglecting my professionalism over academics. So, I mean, it is really reasonable for me to focus more on my studies at the moment, but I could have stayed consistent even though it's just a manageable amount of content to push out. But the thought of balancing both things at one time, and you got all these responsibilities for your friends, your family, and everything. There's a lot of hidden responsibilities that you have to account, and you forget to actually think of it when you're writing your goals. So when you fail doing one thing that you were supposed to be doing, it is especially, what do you call this? It ruins your thought process. It makes you think that you're really bad at setting goals. You're unrealistic and you're inaccurate. So yeah, that led to burnout, and I wasn't able to focus on my work, and yeah, financial problems. But I was able to at least get to the bare minimum, and now I'm going to get back on track and focus on finishing the work that I have left and start a new campaign, because now I have more free time for myself and my work and no time for academics. At least I'm finishing up on those. So yeah, next is I'm gonna build a mindset that makes me more creative, a mindset that produces a lot of content disregarding the inhibitions that I've set prior to being burnt out. Because being burnt out is not never a good thing, because it is just a result of mental fatigue and overwhelming stress. And I didn't have time to go to the gym, work out, go on running, and basically those are the things that actually kept me healthy. And so, yeah, it is basically and ultimately counterproductive for me to neglect those things. Because balancing everything is the best way to go. And when you forget to put your time on one thing and use it for another thing that is not particularly, um, per se, it doesn't really matter or it does not bring value into your life, then you've made a fatal mistake and you've put yourself on the downward spiral towards burnout. Something that is, by all means, you should be avoiding. But, anyways, I've moved on from that and I'm going on a journey towards my best self, the version of myself that is completely um, unfazed by the feeling or the thought of being not enough, um, what do you call it, deficient, un insufficient. The thought of being insufficient, the thought of being not enough, the thought of um, being incapable of doing something, but the truest truth to be ever be spouted or conceived in the human mind is that we are all capable of being creative and that our skills are honed by the time we spend on them. Because if you spend your time overthinking and not training, despite all the struggles, all the mistakes that you could be making, because all those mistakes you're gonna be learning from them. And every time that you spend working on something is the time is the time that you're gonna be spending on learning. And learning will um uh learning will inevitably be the equivalent of progression. Progress equals improvement, and improvement equals confidence and unrelenting strength to keep going and be successful. So, yeah, I need to keep that mindset on my head and, yeah, rise from this burnt out state of mind and be more confident, look forward to the future, and have fun during the process. Because this journey is what matters most and not the destination. Success is the habits that you place upon yourself, the daily things that you do, the goals and the objectives and the principles that you set upon yourself in your, what do you call this? Your virtues, the virtues and principles that you've endowed on yourself, your soul, your heart, and your mind. That is all for this video.